Welcome and thank you for listening to Technology Simplified. Tech talk everyone can understand. I'm your host, Will Slappy. Today I am joined by special guest, Moses Kingsbury, who is the master engineer here at IT Voice. So when our engineering team has questions, this is the guy they go to. Moses has spent most of his entire career in IT, but he's not just the go-to guy for the tech heads. Moses has been the go-to guy for many business leaders to make real-time, informed decisions about their technology developments. Always with client satisfaction in mind, Moses crafts solutions tailored to the needs of each unique business. And we are so happy to have him at IT Voice and pleased to introduce him to our listeners today. So Moses, let's jump right in to the most basic question. What is the cloud?
Hey, Will, thanks for having me. Cloud or cloud computing, it simply put, is the delivery of computing services over the internet. And this can be from a business perspective, servers, databases, software. But also, most people don't realize that today in their everyday lives, they're probably using some sort of cloud service, whether it's storing their pictures on Google Photos, their favorite music playlists on Spotify, enjoying a night of Netflix. All of that is cloud services. So it's not just in the business world, but people are using it every day.
Yeah. So it's basically just a computer that is on someone else's network, right? Is that kind of the net?
Yeah, it's not actually sitting out there in the sky in the clouds, but yeah, you have these companies specializing and having lots of computer power and applications, and they use it and they share it with you.
Yeah. So from your experience, because I know obviously you're both on the highly technical end, with the engineers as well as working with businesses. So on the business side, why is it that you see businesses choosing to move more and more to the cloud?
Well, it could be for a variety of reasons, but businesses start to look to the cloud. One, it could be budgetary. Maybe they have a big need to replace their IT infrastructure. It can mean a big capital investment, and so maybe they're looking to not spend that type of money up front. Maybe they're going through a huge growth spurt. They need to add to their team, and instead of hiring a bunch of experts around their platforms or their applications, they get to augment it by using some cloud services. And so it really gives them the flexibility in different needs across their business, depending on what they're looking for.
Yeah, no, that makes a whole lot of sense. In terms of primary use, is it more about storage, computing power, or something else?
It's the advantages of cloud services is it really is so flexible. It could be about any of those or all of them, right? You might need additional storage only. You might need more computing power, a little bit of both. You might just need some applications or maybe just some expert help on managing those. So the cloud really brings all of those options. You're no longer tied to be doing one or the other, or if you do one, you have to do another one. You really get the flexibility of pulling together what you really need when you need it.
Right. Yeah, so it almost sounds like it's like going to a restaurant and they deliver a ready-to-eat meal to you instead of going to the grocery store where you get to take all the pieces and parts home and put them together. So I guess
Right.
it depends what sort of appetite you have.
Exactly. And today I might want a big steak, tomorrow the salad.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. So let's just say that you decide on a plan and your business grows. You pick a cloud provider and then, your business is growing and you need additional resources. How's that usually handled?
Right. So again, going back to that flexibility, it's sort of you pay for what you need. So you might need a little now, but you can get a whole bunch more later. So as your business grows or your needs change, you can modify your cloud services accordingly. And again, it's more power, people, resources, but it really gives you the advantage to grab it when you need it, and you're only paying for it as you need it, as opposed to buying a whole bunch today because you think you're going to grow in the next year, and then having to pay for it now when you might not need it for 12 months.
Yeah, so back to the grocery store analogy, it's kind of like, sometimes you shop at Costco and you buy, the
Right.
ketchup is this big, and you may not, at the restaurant you can just serve out exactly what you need when you need it, and
Exactly.
it's always available to you. Now, let's talk about cost, because you brought that up for a second. So, when it comes to cost, is it something where cloud providers get you in and they're like, okay, yeah, like the what do they call those? The doorbuster items or whatever, the loss leaders that, suck you in, and then all of a sudden cost goes up once you kind of get in. Is it like that, or is it more like, hey, the more you get, the lower the costs get, or somewhere in the middle?
But they're somewhere in the middle, right? You absolutely try to set up a customer with some expectations of predictable costs according to the services they're looking for, whether you're doing it based on resource utilization or on a per user access basis. That way they say, hey, if I hire 5 more people next month, I know exactly what it's going to cost me to add it. And on the beauty is if you're growing at a rapid pace and you get past the next number, there's means to be able to provide the customer with some quantity discounts as they grow as well. But most importantly, they're able to predict what their costs are, right? They have their access fee, they know what their services are costing them, and so there's no surprises.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great point, especially, and I can see exactly why they say that you're not only the tech guy, but also the business guy to go to, because that's, of course, super important when you're trying to model, to know, hey, if I grow, this is what my incremental cost is going to be, versus no cost and then huge cost and then no cost and then huge cost. It's a little
Right.
bit hard to predict. So I can definitely see where that's a huge advantage from a planning, perspective. Now, this next question I have for you kind of is involved with, what maintenance is needed, and how that, and maybe you could even talk a little bit about, like, hey, this is kind of what the maintenance needed, if you have it in a physical sort of environment. How does that differ from the cloud? And then also maybe you can share a little bit about the different cloud options. People hear this public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, and so maybe you could tell us a little bit about the difference between, an on-premise versus public, private, or hybrid, and then also what's maybe the maintenance difference, and what is the client required to do in each of those different scenarios.
Right. So on premise, it really means equipment that and services that you own. It's might be sitting in your closet or an office at your business or something like that. And you maintain yourself, and that means as the business owner, or maybe you hire an IT guy who comes in part time, or maybe he's full time, but you have some sort of in-house expertise and cost related to doing that, and really the maintenance is largely dependent upon you to take responsibility for it, if you will, right? So you want to make sure the systems stay clean and kept orderly fashion and all that, but really it's all your responsibility. Whereas you start to move into the cloud services world, whether it's the public cloud, which is generally known as services that Microsoft offers with Microsoft Azure, or Amazon Web Services, those types of things are public cloud, or a private cloud, which IT Voice is, and that just means we're not one of those big name public names like Microsoft and Amazon, right? We cater more towards something when a customer needs customization of their services, or something a little bit more fine-tuned than they can get in the public cloud. We're able to do offerings that are a little bit more specific to a customer's needs, rather than prepackaged things that you're going to find out in the public cloud. And as far as the maintenance in the public cloud or private cloud, those become the responsibility of the provider, if you will, right? So there's still systems, there's still hardware, they still need maintenance, they still need updates, patching, and all of that good stuff. But for the cost of it, it becomes the expertise that are providing the services. So you don't need to worry about an operating system expert or a guy who knows servers specifically to do things. That's all built into your subscription fees, and then you could hold the provider responsible for that, and they're doing that as part of their service to you.
Right. Yeah, so it's a mix of both the hardware, the software, the maintenance components, all of that, together, which makes it much more turnkey than, a premise-based type of situation. So, yeah, I think that all makes sense. Now, a lot of customers, hopefully all customers, are concerned with security. And I've even had some customers over the years who've said something to me along the lines of like, I want my data, where I can basically have control of it and nobody else. And, so they feel sometimes more comfortable with something in the closet, than the cloud feels like it's out there and who has access to it. And, you hear about ransomware and all these different things. And yeah, so speak to the question of security and how does the cloud compare to on-premise when it comes to security?
Well, cloud providers invest in knowing technology and having engineers or professionals that spend time to learn and come up with things like best case practices, policies, the use of the different technologies, and the implementations of controls so that you can strengthen your security posture. So that's a little bit of an advantage, unless as an individual business owner, you're going to invest the time and the money to have people up to date on those things because they're always changing. Technology changes, threats change. A cloud provider is going to maintain those things for you. They're going to implement the policies. They're going to make sure they're putting in schedules for your automatic security patching. They're going to make sure your security systems are up to date and are performing the way they should. So you really get the expertise from others that are really concentrating around security practices, and then they help implement that on your systems and your data.
Yeah, so when you're talking about that, it makes me think of like a bank, where if you go to a banking Dropbox, like your lockbox, you're getting access to all the benefits of the security that they've already built in place, and you get your little slot. Versus if you have a drawer in your house,
right.
and if you want to try to, you could spend all that to secure your own home and stuff, or you could just pay a small fee on a monthly basis to have access to an already secured location. So it sounds,
yeah, absolutely.
You're leveraging the security that they've already put in place for an entire environment. So that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
So let's just say you got somebody sitting out there listening to the podcast right now, and they've been thinking about, hey, I'm on premise, but I've heard a lot about the cloud. I'm ready to make that jump. How do they go about doing that? How do they move from on-premise to the cloud?
Well, first they got to give IT Voice a call and get one of our experts to get in there and help them plan out.
We don't there yet because we don't. The purpose of the podcast is not to pitch people, of course. Talk to us. But.
Right. Well, but in all truthfulness, they make a call to a cloud provider where that offers the services that they're looking for, right? And there's again going to this, when we started, the cloud services range all over the board depending on what type of applications or services that you need. But get in touch with the cloud service provider that offers your services. They're going to help set up and outline the expectations and what it's going to take to move. But usually they'll be able to stage your services on their cloud side. They'll be able to get it all up and ready. You'll be able to preview it and test it, and in most cases they can plan a migration over with little or to even no impact to your business.
Wow, that's pretty fantastic. Yeah, so I think a lot of people think about it as this huge interruption. But I know I've heard you share stories with me before about like as you've had people even using it while it's in the middle of migration, and people think they kind of think like old school days, like even like an old phone system or something like that, where it's like you got to stop using the one, start using the other.
Right.
It sounds like things have come a really long way and a lot easier to get that over very seamlessly with the right provider that can help somebody do that. So anything that we didn't cover here today, Moses, that if somebody wanted to know about the cloud, anything else that you would put at the top of the list of saying, hey, here's if you're talking about the cloud, here's something you need to know.
Just that in the early days, cloud was folks were a little hesitant to think about it, and you mentioned it, their data or owning their own data and having knowing that it's safe because they're hanging on to it. But the cloud has really evolved, whether it's a public cloud or a private cloud, and the technologies have evolved, and they've taken all that stuff into consideration, and really it's to help you hand off the parts related to IT in your services and infrastructure, and let the professionals deal with that while you concentrate on your business. And it's really just to bring a benefit to you as a business owner and the things that you do on an everyday.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Moses, too. Yeah, if you've heard some horror story, but it's 5 to 10 years old, the cloud has come a long, long way, and you need
Right.
to give it a second go. So I think that's a great point to end on. So, guys, that's it for today. Thank you for your time and expertise, Moses. Really appreciate you coming on board here to speak to us and our listeners. I hope we were able to cover some of the questions that our listeners, might have, and hopefully this was very informational to you guys out there. If we did miss something and you were curious about it, just let us know in the comments, and maybe it's something we can incorporate into a future show. Make sure to follow Technology Simplified to help you keep your business network running efficiently and securely and productively. Through this podcast, we will keep up to date on the ever-changing technology landscape so you'll be equipped to run your business effectively. Have a great week, everyone.
Take care.